Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we talk all things parenting, focusing on those real, sometimes messy, often beautiful moments that come with raising young children. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of, say, bedtime routine, and you and your partner have completely different ideas about how it should go? Maybe one of you thinks it's okay for your little one to have that extra story, while the other is adamant that lights out means lights out, right now. Or perhaps it's about discipline. You believe in gentle redirection, while your partner leans towards timeouts, and suddenly, a simple disagreement about how to handle a toddler tantrum turns into, well, something bigger. You're standing there, maybe whispering intensely over your child's head, or perhaps waiting until they're asleep to have that conversation. The one that feels like you're speaking different languages even though you both love your child more than anything. If any of this sounds familiar, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. This is one of the most common, yet often unspoken, challenges of co-parenting, navigating those differences in style, approach, and philosophy when it comes to raising our kids. It can feel incredibly isolating sometimes, can't it? You see other couples who seem perfectly in sync, presenting this united front, and you wonder, are we the only ones who argue about screen time limits? Or whether our preschooler really needs to finish all their vegetables? The truth is, disagreements about child rearing are practically universal. Think about it, you and your partner are two unique individuals, likely raised in different families, with different experiences, different temperaments, and maybe even different cultural backgrounds or core values that subtly shape how you view parenting. It's almost inevitable that you won't see eye to eye on absolutely everything. And honestly, that's okay. Having different perspectives isn't inherently bad. In fact, sometimes it can even be a strength, bringing balance and a wider range of ideas to your parenting toolkit. The real challenge isn't having disagreements, it's how you handle them. Because how you navigate these differences profoundly impacts not just your relationship with your partner, but also the environment you create for your child. When parents are constantly at odds, sending mixed signals, or openly undermining each other, it can leave kids feeling confused, anxious, or even learning to play one parent against the other, something none of us want. So, in this video, we're going to dive deep into this. We'll explore why these disagreements happen so frequently, how they can affect our little ones, and most importantly, we'll talk through some really practical, compassionate strategies for finding common ground, communicating effectively even when you disagree, and building that strong, united parenting team that benefits everyone in the family. We're not aiming for perfection here, because let's be real, parenting is messy. But we are aiming for progress, understanding, and a more harmonious home. Ready to explore this together? Let's start by truly understanding where these differences often stem from. It's rarely because one person is right and the other is wrong. More often, it's rooted in our own histories. Think about your own childhood. How were you disciplined? What were the mealtime rules? How was affection shown? Were emotions discussed openly or swept under the rug? Now think about your partner's upbringing. Chances are, there were differences, maybe subtle, maybe significant. We often subconsciously default to parenting the way we were parented, or sometimes, we swing in the complete opposite direction, reacting against something we didn't like about our own childhood. For example, maybe your partner grew up in a very strict household where children were expected to be seen and not heard, so they are determined to give your child more freedom and voice. You, on the other hand, might have grown up with very few boundaries and felt a bit lost or overwhelmed, so you crave more structure and clear rules for your own child. Neither perspective is inherently wrong, but they stem from different experiences and lead to different priorities. Recognizing these deeply ingrained patterns in both yourself and your partner is a huge first step. It fosters empathy. Instead of seeing your partner's approach as just annoying or incorrect, you can start to see why they feel that way, where that belief or instinct comes from. It might be tied to a desire to protect, to nurture, or to avoid repeating past pains. Another major source of conflict is simply different interpretations of information. We live in an age of information overload, don't we? There are countless parenting books, blogs, social media accounts, podcasts, all offering advice, often conflicting advice. One expert swears by sleep training, another advocates for co-sleeping indefinitely. One philosophy promotes authoritative parenting, another leans towards permissive. You might resonate strongly with one approach, reading articles and feeling validated, while your partner connects with a completely different set of experts. This can lead to situations where you both feel you have evidence backing your preferred method, making compromise feel like you're abandoning the right way. Imagine arguing about introducing solids. One parent has read all about baby-led weaning and is excited for the baby to self-feed chunks of food, while the other has researched traditional purees and is worried about choking hazards with the BLW approach. Both are acting out of love and concern, armed with information they believe is best, yet it leads to friction at the high chair. Understanding that both of you are likely trying to do what you believe is best, based on the information you trust, can soften the edges of these disagreements. It shifts the focus from "I'm right, you're wrong" to "we both want what's best. How can we integrate our concerns and knowledge?" And let's not forget the impact of stress and external pressures. Parenting young children is demanding. Lack of sleep, financial worries, work stress, managing household tasks, it all takes a toll. When we're exhausted or overwhelmed, our patience wears thin, our communication skills falter, and we're much more likely to snap at our partner or dig our heels in during a disagreement. What might be a minor difference of opinion on a good day can explode into a major conflict when you're both running on empty. Think about those late afternoons, the infamous witching hour, when everyone is tired and hungry. That's often when parenting differences flare up most intensely, isn't it? Maybe one parent tries to enforce a no snacks before dinner rule, while the other, desperate for 5 minutes of peace, hands over the crackers. It's not necessarily about the crackers, it's about the stress, the exhaustion, and the different coping mechanisms kicking in. Added to this are external pressures. Maybe grandparents have strong opinions on how you should be raising your kids, or you feel judged by other parents at daycare drop-off. These external voices can amplify internal disagreements, making it even harder to find your own way as a united couple. Recognizing the role that stress and external factors play is crucial. It helps you to personalize the conflict somewhat. It's not always just about the two of you. Sometimes, it's about the immense pressure cooker that is modern parenting. Acknowledging this shared burden can be a starting point for finding more supportive ways to navigate these challenges together, rather than letting them drive a wedge between you. Now that we've unpacked some of the common roots of these disagreements, let's start thinking about how we can actually begin to bridge these gaps and communicate more effectively, especially when things get tense. So, we understand why we might disagree, our backgrounds, the information we consume, the stress we're under. But knowing why doesn't automatically fix the how. How do we actually talk about these things without it escalating into a fight, especially when we're feeling passionate about our point of view? One of the absolute most critical pieces of advice I can offer here is about timing and setting. Trying to resolve a fundamental difference in parenting philosophy while your toddler is having a meltdown in the grocery store aisle, or when you're both exhausted and rushing through the bedtime routine, is almost guaranteed to fail. Emotions are high, distractions are everywhere, and you're likely operating in survival mode, not thoughtful discussion mode. Instead, you need to consciously carve out dedicated time to talk when things are calm, when the kids are asleep or occupied, and when you both have the mental energy to truly listen and engage. This might sound easier said than done, I know. Life with young children is hectic. But even finding 15 to 20 minutes a couple of times a week, maybe after the kids are in bed or during a weekend nap time, can make a world of difference. Make it intentional. Say, hey, I'd love to talk more about how we handle screen time, or whatever the issue is. Can we find some time tonight after dinner, just us? Setting this intention signals that the conversation is important and deserves focused attention, rather than being a reactive argument squeezed in between other demands. And when you do sit down to talk, the way you communicate is paramount. This brings us to the power of active listening and empathy. This isn't just about hearing the words your partner is saying, it's about truly trying to understand the feelings, needs, and intentions behind those words. So often in disagreements, we're busy formulating our rebuttal while the other person is still talking. We're listening to find fault, not to understand. Active listening means putting your own agenda aside for a moment. It means making eye contact, nodding, and using verbal cues like a huh or I see to show you're engaged. But more importantly, it involves reflecting back what you hear to ensure you understand correctly and trying to connect with the underlying emotion. Instead of immediately countering with, well, I think timeouts are ineffective, try something like, okay, so if I understand correctly, you feel that using timeouts helps teach consequences and gives everyone a chance to calm down. Is that right? It sounds like you're worried that without a clear consequence, the behavior will just continue. This does a few things. It validates your partner's perspective, even if you don't agree with it. It shows you're genuinely trying to understand their viewpoint, and it clarifies their position before you respond. It shifts the dynamic from adversarial to collaborative. You're not opponents trying to win, you're partners trying to understand each other's concerns about your shared child. Remember those different upbringings we talked about? Try to connect their stance back to that understanding. I know you mentioned your parents were really strict about table manners, so I can see why it's important to you that our daughter sits nicely through dinner. This kind of empathy can dramatically lower defenses and open the door to finding solutions together. Once you're truly listening and understanding each other's perspectives, the next step is to work towards finding common ground and areas for compromise. It's highly unlikely you'll suddenly agree on everything, and that's not the goal. The goal is to identify your shared values and then figure out where you can be flexible. Start by talking about the big picture. What are your ultimate goals for your child? You probably both want them to be happy, kind, resilient, responsible, safe, and loved, right? Start there. Acknowledge that you share these fundamental desires. Then, you can zoom in on the specific issue. Let's take the example of bedtime again. One parent wants a strict 7:30 p.m. lights out, the other is more flexible. Instead of arguing about the time, talk about the underlying needs. The strict parent might be concerned about the child getting enough sleep for healthy development and having a predictable routine. The flexible parent might value connection time, reading together, and not wanting bedtime to feel like a battle. Both are valid points. The common ground is wanting a well-rested child and a positive bedtime experience. So, how can you compromise? Maybe you agree on a slightly later bedtime, say 7:45 p.m., but commit to starting the wind-down routine earlier to ensure plenty of calm connection time. Or maybe you stick to the 7:30 p.m. lights out on school nights but allow more flexibility on weekends. Compromise isn't about one person winning, it's about finding a solution that respects both partners' concerns and works for the family as a whole. It often involves each person giving a little. Identify your non-negotiables, the core values or safety issues you feel incredibly strongly about, but also identify areas where you can bend. Maybe the specific brand of organic snacks isn't your hill to die on, even if you have a preference. If it means avoiding constant conflict with your partner who is less concerned about organic labels but equally concerned about providing healthy food. Pick your battles wisely, focusing on the things that truly matter most in the long run for your child's well-being and your family harmony. Finding this balance between holding firm on core principles and being flexible on the details is key to navigating disagreements constructively. And remember, these agreements aren't set in stone. As your child grows and circumstances change, you might need to revisit these conversations and adjust your approach together. It's an ongoing process of communication and collaboration. Now, having these calm, empathetic conversations and finding compromises is crucial behind the scenes, but what about those moments when you disagree right there, in front of your child? How do you handle that without undermining each other? That's what we need to delve into next. Okay, so we've talked about understanding the roots of our disagreements, the importance of timing our conversations, listening with empathy, and finding ways to compromise behind the scenes. But let's be honest, disagreements don't always wait for a scheduled, calm discussion. Sometimes they pop up right in the heat of the moment, maybe at the park when your child wants to climb something you feel is too high, or at the dinner table when they refuse to eat their broccoli. What do you do then, right in front of your child? This is where the concept of the united front becomes so incredibly important. Presenting a united front doesn't mean you suddenly magically agree on everything. It means that, in front of your child, you support your partner's decision or boundary, even if you privately disagree or would have handled it differently. Why is this so crucial? Because children, especially young children, thrive on consistency and predictability. When they see their parents are on the same team, it creates a sense of security and clarity. They understand the rules and expectations. Conversely, if they see that mommy says no but daddy might say yes if they ask again, or if they witness parents arguing about a decision, it can be confusing and unsettling. They might learn to exploit these differences, playing parents off each other to get what they want, which undermines both parents' authority and can create more conflict down the line. So, how do you actually do this in practice? Let's say your partner tells your child, okay, 5 more minutes of screen time, then it's off. You might think 5 minutes isn't enough, or maybe you think screen time should already be over. Instead of contradicting your partner right then and there, actually, honey, let's make it 10 minutes, or no, screen time is done now, you back them up. You can reinforce the message, okay, buddy, you heard daddy, 5 more minutes, then we'll turn it off together. Later, when you're alone, you can have that conversation, hey, I noticed you gave 5 extra minutes of screen time. Can we talk about how we want to handle those requests moving forward? I was thinking. This approach respects your partner in the moment, maintains consistency for your child, and preserves the discussion for a more appropriate time. What if the situation feels more urgent, or you strongly disagree with something safety-related? Sometimes, you might need a quick, subtle way to signal a need to discuss. Maybe a code word or a simple "can we chat about this for a sec" away from little ears. If that's not possible, one parent might need to take the lead in the moment, and the other needs to try their best to support or at least not actively undermine them. The crucial part is the follow-up conversation later, where you can discuss why you disagreed and how you might handle similar situations in the future. It takes practice, and sometimes you'll mess up, but aiming for that united front as much as possible builds a strong foundation for your child. They learn that their parents are a team, working together for their well-being. Now, something that underpins all of this, our ability to communicate calmly, compromise effectively, and present that united front, is how we're doing individually. We touched on stress earlier, but it bears repeating. Managing your own stress and prioritizing self-care isn't a luxury when you're a parent, it's a necessity. When you're feeling depleted, overwhelmed, or constantly running on fumes, your capacity for patient communication and compromise plummets. Small disagreements feel huge, and your partner's differing opinion can feel like a personal attack rather than just a different perspective. Think about how much more easily irritated you are by everything when you haven't slept well. That same principle applies to parenting conflicts. Taking even small steps to care for yourself, ensuring you get enough sleep whenever possible, finding moments for activities you enjoy, even if it's just 10 minutes of reading or a walk around the block, connecting with friends, getting some exercise, can significantly improve your emotional regulation. When you feel more balanced and recharged, you're better equipped to handle parenting challenges and disagreements with your partner in a calmer, more constructive way. It also models healthy coping strategies for your children. And this applies to both partners, of course. Supporting each other and finding time for self-care is an investment in your relationship and your family's overall well-being. It might mean taking turns giving each other breaks, or consciously scheduling me time for each of you. It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup, and a less stressed parent is generally a more patient and collaborative co-parent. So, navigating these parenting disagreements is truly a journey, isn't it? It's about understanding where you both come from, committing to communicating with empathy and respect even when it's hard, finding that balance between core values and flexibility, and always striving to present that united front for your children. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate disagreements entirely, that's probably unrealistic. The goal is to learn how to navigate them in a way that strengthens your partnership rather than weakening it, and creates a secure, consistent, and loving environment for your child to thrive in. It's about seeing yourselves not as adversaries in a parenting debate, but as partners on the same team, facing the beautiful, messy, wonderful challenge of raising a human being together. Every small step you take towards better communication, towards understanding, towards finding that common ground, it makes a difference. Be patient with yourselves and with each other. You're learning and growing together, right alongside your child. I really hope this conversation has been helpful for you today. Tackling parenting disagreements is such a common struggle, and talking about it openly is so important. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What strategies have worked for you and your partner when navigating different parenting styles? Sharing your experiences can help so many other parents who might be going through the same thing. And if you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel reach more parents who might need this support. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future videos on navigating the ups and downs of parenthood. Remember, you're doing great work, even on the hard days. Keep showing up with love and intention, keep communicating, and keep supporting each other. You've got this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.